Good afternoon. So this is week 2. This is the second video that I'm making for your edification and education. I'm already surprised how many emails I'm getting that are asking questions that are answered in the video. So if you're one of the people who's been watching the videos, thank you. And when I send out a thing today with the new video, it will include an admonishment for those who have not been looking at the videos, and you can just know that's not about you. So then it doesn't even have to feel yucky. These videos are really vital for getting bits of information. It's just not easy to get any other way. So always make sure you watch them. I try to keep them short enough that you're not dozing off in the middle of them. But every bit of information that's in the videos is something you really will benefit from knowing as you maneuver through the class. So hopefully you've been reading the textbook readings, the textbook that's free and online and has lots of errors and irritates students immeasurably, which cracks me up because your papers are full of errors usually as well. And you're noticing that the author wants us to pay attention to the difference between reading in a way where we are thinking through the reading, understanding the reading through a series of questions and trying to live inside the reading and try to find connection with the reading, versus the kind of reading you've probably been trained to do most of your career in education so far, which is that you read to find the answers, you memorize the answers, you puke the answers back out on a test, and you're done. You get to forget everything you learned. When you're reading in academics and when you're reading in your adult life, things like, I'm signing a contract to buy a house, I really ought to probably understand this, we do a much more sophisticated version of reading. The first time through, you're probably skimming just like you would in K-12 education. You're giving it a skim to see what can I expect, what are the key concepts that I'm pulling out, have they underlined or highlighted any words for me that I should pay particular attention to. But then hopefully you're reading it a second time through. And the second time through, you're investigating it a little bit more heavily, asking questions in the margin of the author. Why did you use that word? What does that word even mean? If you don't completely know what a word means, not just a little bit know, not I know it in context. If you don't completely know what a word means, you need to be looking it up, because there's no way to understand the information at the level that we're going to be reading, which is pretty sophisticated. This week's example, peeling back the natural food label, not a good version of sophisticated reading or writing for that matter. And we're going to go over that in just a second, but be sure you're looking up concepts that you don't understand. That's why this past week's discussion questions were focused on what did you need to assist yourself with in order to understand what it is you're looking at. Another part of understanding what you're reading is to understand that you don't actually have all the information already. There's a construct called standpoint dependency that I mess with my students in class pretty frequently with regard to. And I usually start the exercise by saying, can I borrow somebody's glass of water or soft drink or whatever, and put it in the center of the class. And I ask different members of the class from different parts of the room to describe what they see. And this student describes, what he or she can see from over here, and this student over here describes what he or she can see from over there. These are not the same views, so these descriptions end up being pretty different from each other. There's invariably a person in the class who's sitting in just the right way behind someone that they literally can't see the cup. So their description of the cup is, there isn't one. And when I get to the part of the exercise where I say, all of that is true, and all of it is contradictory to the other descriptions, but it's all 100% true from the standpoint those people are at, we start to see a few light bulbs go on in class. We are all sitting, as it were, in different parts of the world, in different parts of life, looking at issues, complexities, ideas from the place where we're sitting. And it doesn't mean that where we're sitting is an inaccurate or incorrect view. It means that it's a partial view. And the best we can do to understand as much as possible is to gather as much information as possible about what others' views are as well, so that we can flesh out what we're looking at. Because for some people, there isn't even a cup in the room, and for others, they can describe it in great detail. And both of those are simultaneously the truth. So as you're working through the things that you do online, Many times I will have it available that you can see what other people are posting. Reading their work gives you a broader view of what we're doing. It may seem like something that you don't have to waste your time with because that's for the teacher to read and to grade. But if it's open to everyone, you're supposed to be engaging with each other in the ideas. And that's something you're going to find very valuable as you move along. I am hoping that when you read Peeling Back the Natural Food Label, you kept with you the part from the text reading that talked about the difference between reacting and responding. When we react to a reading or to what we hear, we are based in emotion. And we typically say things like, "That's so stupid," or "That's exactly right, because that looks exactly like what I'm used to." What we're going for in academic reading is more responding. It's not that you don't have emotions. You're not a robot. You get to have your emotions. It's about checking yourself before you then make those emotions the basis of what comes out of your pen or out of your mouth. And instead working through the constructs that you're reading by forcing yourself to engage with it intellectually as well as emotionally. So when you read Peeling Back the Natural Food Label, you notice I did not ask you to tell me what you thought of the article. I thought about doing that, but it seemed mean because many of you were going to respond with, "This is exactly right. How could the FDA possibly do this? How do they get away with manipulating people like this? This should be illegal." And then you were going to feel really silly when you take a close look at the reading and you see that the main idea of this reading was not to give you information. Hopefully, because you're very practiced at reading and you've done a lot of it, and we've read a lot of textbook readings about reading, you looked at this and thought, what's the main idea? What's the one thing, if this author ran up to you in the student center and shouted something at you and ran away, would the author say that conveys everything she tried to say in the entire article? That one thing would not be the FDA should have a definition for natural. That one main idea would be sign my petition. This is a piece of writing that's from Consumer Reports. That's not a bad publication. It's written by a woman named Andrea Rock, who is an investigative journalist. That's not an unhappy occupation or one that's inherently fraught, untrustworthy in any way. But what Andrea Rock is not is an expert on policy or an expert on nutrition. And that's not bad, it's just something you need to know. You knew, of course, to look her up because our author told us in the textbook readings that we should investigate who people are, what their biases are, what their background is. But the minute she starts writing, hopefully you start having alarm bells go off in your head. The first 3 sentences of this article set the tone for what's to come. Do you ever buy one brand of cereal, chips, or juice over another because you see natural and assume it's better? Sure you do. The moment an author pretends they know who you are and what kind of choices you make, you should have alarm bells going off in your head. Academic writing does not engage in a way that's like, "Come on, buddy, I know you." It engages with you as though you're a person who needs to be informed and who has a right to be spoken to, as though you are seeking information. And that's not how we talk to people who are seeking information. The next sentence says a recent nationally representative, that term we're going to come back to, Consumer Reports survey of 1,005 adults found that more than half of consumers usually seek out products with a natural food label. 1,005 people, it turns out, randomly called all over the United States. Probably not an excellent nationally representative survey that can help us understand how 343 million people feel. It's not that surveys are inaccurate as a way of gleaning kind of the tenor or tone of something. But first, you don't typically have such a small sample, especially a random sample, and consider it representative of the entire nation. And second, the tone of something is very different than this author presenting it as, here's the facts about how people behave. It's too great of a generalization. Other things that should have set your body back on its heels in terms of, I'm not sure about this. Words like slime, words like outrageous. When they put in parentheticals, little asides that are really more part of Twitter speak. I'm not making this up. What she doesn't do is provide us any evidence she's not making it up. She links us with hyperlinks. Hopefully you notice that the underlined portions of the article are hyperlinks and you can click on them. She links us with hyperlinks to additional Consumer Reports articles. And that self-referentialism is not the same as providing sources from an outside source that support what it is you have to say. So I didn't have you comment on what you thought about all of this on this one because I didn't want to have you feeling like you did something wrong to respond with gross agreement or gross disagreement with what the author had to say. This was to give you a sense of what it feels like in your body to read and react if you're not very carefully making yourself respond. So instead I asked you about the tactics that you used in reading this, as well as what kind of things you needed to look up in order to feel like you were well informed about what she had to say. Do go back and look at the article. Kind of keep in mind what I'm talking about with regard to language choices and rhetorical choices that she makes in the structure of her argument. If you didn't look up the author, be prepared to start doing that every time you read an article. And this week's article kind of approaches the same subject, but from an academic standpoint. It's your first foray in this class into reading an academic article, and you should definitely reach out with any questions that you have. You'll notice that I put a discussion board up in the main portion of our class that asks you what questions you have that you want to see addressed, not only by your colleagues in the discussion board itself, but also by me in these videos. If you're not willing to wait a week for an answer in the video and you want the question answered by me, please contact me via email. And my email address is right on our syllabus as well as numerous places all over Blackboard. That way I can get you an answer that's much quicker and much more direct to your particular question. Check out the calendar. We have things coming up due. Remember, our calendar is not the Blackboard generic calendar. It's a course calendar that you actually have in the Start Here folder under course content. Printing it will make you happy. If you have any questions, let me know, and I look forward to seeing you soon next week with another video, but also some of you have started stopping by my office, and I really appreciate it. So take care, and I'll see you soon.